Manager here at the Virginia Department of Housing and Community Development. We will be recording this meeting, just to let you know that. Today we are going to be reviewing the eligibility and tips for a strong application for the Virginia Main Street grant programs. To reduce background noise, please stay muted during the meeting. I also have with me Kyle Meyer. He is a community revitalization specialist, and he's going to present the materials today. And he and I both will be moderating this session and answering any questions that you all might have. If you do have questions to ask, feel free to put those into the chat feature here in the meeting, and we will get to those at the end or as we can take those. If you're participating by phone and you have a question, please unmute yourself, and at time of transition or a break in the conversation, go ahead and speak up to ask your question. And without further ado, I am going to turn it over to Kyle.
Thank you, Joy. Well, welcome everybody to our Virginia Main Street grant webinar. So this is our agenda for the hopefully a little less than an hour that we'll be here. First, I'm just going to talk a little bit about what is Main Street so that you understand. I think a lot of you are already probably active in the network, but just be a few slides to review that, which links directly to the goals of these grants. We're going to review three grants all total, but two of the first ones are Community Vitality and the Downtown Investment Grants. We'll talk a little bit about developing an application and that funding timeline. And then I'll talk briefly at the very end about the Financial Feasibility Study Grant, and we'll have time for Q&A. Just let you know that Virginia Main Street is a program within the Virginia Department of Housing and Community Development's Community Revitalization Office. And DHCD's mission is committed to creating safe, affordable, and prosperous communities to live, work, and do business in Virginia. So the Virginia Main Street program, as I said, is housed in the Community Revitalization Office. And we got started about 35 years ago. Main Street was created in the late 70s and early 80s when a lot of the market had shifted to the suburban development and with mall development. So the National Main Street Center saw this, or excuse me, the National Trust for Historic Preservation saw this as a historic preservation issue, considering one of the largest assets of these historic downtowns, of course, are the buildings. So the National Trust, through these pilot projects, developed a methodology and developed the National Main Street Center to manage and oversee the program. And the program is at its core asset-based economic development. Historic preservation, and those older buildings are, of course, one of those most important assets. And within the program, it's best utilized when it's a grassroots community-led program, meaning that the community is involved and engaged and helping to make decisions and develop that vision for that future downtown. So in the methodology, it's really centered around these 4 points: organization, design, economic vitality, and promotion. Organization is about managing those human and financial resources, developing that plan for downtown, and attracting the resources, both in volunteer and financial resources, to make the revitalization happen. Design focuses on that the built environment, that physical environment. So it's all those public spaces within your downtown. And so the design point's responsibility is to develop that sense of place. Economic vitality is about embracing the entrepreneur and creating an environment within that district that is healthy and helps to ensure a successful launch or existence and operation of a local business. So the economic vitality is about embracing those entrepreneurs, but also the development and the real estate of that space. And so that creates that sense of vitality, having those those storefronts full of local businesses. And then promotion is about creating the buzz, getting out the word that the downtown is the center of activity for culture, commerce, and community life. And so it creates that sense of activity. Those all work together when they're bound by some sort of focus strategy, and the term that the National Main Street Center uses is transformation strategy. So before you take on any work, you first have to listen to the community and develop a community vision, as well as a market understanding, and know your assets well. So that would be your mix of businesses and understanding your demographics and your customer base and what your commercial district could support. So you take that information, and that's what informs a transformation strategy or a focus strategy, so that all of those 4 points are working together towards the same goal. And of course, this all works best when you have a work plan that tracks the success through quantitative and qualitative outcomes. And the outcomes that you can expect from a Main Street effort is sustainable development. That's triple bottom line as far as economic, environmental, and social sustainability. Of course, entrepreneurship, since you are creating programs and a space where small businesses can grow and thrive. Community pride because of the revitalized downtown and a wonderful center of community for your locality at large. And then we also, in the Main Street methodology, it works best when private and public partnerships are working together. And there's typically a nonprofit organization at managing the district that pulls together both the public and the private sector to unify and revitalize that downtown. And of course, with small businesses in those storefronts, with activities in downtown, there's vibrancy, attraction, an attraction for the region, and most of all, you get that sense of place that is only authentic to your community. So Virginia Main Street is a state coordinated program, and as I said, we're 35 years old. We started in 1985. The National Main Street Center celebrated their 40th anniversary this year. We celebrated our 35th. We currently have 30 advancing Main Street communities. That's the designated communities. And we have over 90 plus exploring Main Street communities. Now that's a new tier name. It is formerly the affiliate program. And then we've had one mobilizing Main Street program. So that's formerly the Virginia Downtowns program, and that was Cape Charles in 2018, who has now successfully moved through that program and is an advancing Virginia Main Street designated community. So here's the tiers, and a little easier to understand graph here. So there are 4 tiers. The first one is introducing Main Street, and there are no requirements for that. That's just participating through social media, joining our email list, coming to our training. So that's open to anybody. Exploring Main Street is the formerly commercial district affiliate tier, and this is a non-competitive application. The application is very simple. We're just asking about primary contacts, what are your goals, and what have you done in the past, and tell us a little bit about your district. And this is an opportunity for you all to dive a little bit deeper and learn the best practices and connect to a network of peers. Mobilizing Main Street, as I said, is formerly the Virginia Downtowns. And this is a program that helps to prepare a locality for designation. So Mobilizing Main Street are for those communities that are really thinking long-term that they would like to be designated one day. And so within a 2-year program, we help prepare a program in a community for that application. But it's also used as a learning laboratory for regions and districts that don't fit our current requirements. So we do have a population cap of 75,000 with our program, so that leaves out a lot of larger communities within Virginia. Some of our big cities. And the National Main Street Center has their Urban Main program, which focuses on those neighborhood commercial districts. So Mobilizing Main Street can be used as that learning lab for us to be able to help and assist some of those partners that we haven't yet met. And then Advancing Main Street is our designation, and it is a competitive application process. And the expectation is that those communities meet the National Main Street Community Accreditation standards. So there is a baseline of expectations in order to participate in that program. Now, with that are a number of grants that are available to each of those tiers. Exploring Main Street, Mobilizing Main Street have access to the Community Vitality Grant. So that's up to $7,000 to implement a project within downtown. And I'll go into more details on what exactly that means. And then Advancing Virginia Main Street has access to the Downtown Investment Grant, which is to fund a project up to $25,000. We also had the Financial Feasibility Study Grant. So this is a grant to fund the study of the highest and best use for an underutilized commercial building within the district. So I'll go into a little bit more detail about how you qualify for that, especially for the Exploring and Mobilizing Main Streets a little down the road. Advancing Main Street has access to that starting in January, and it's a rolling application through October 1st. It's available to Exploring and Mobilizing Main Street communities after August 1st if there are still funds available. So 3 grants that I'm going over, I've already mentioned them: the Community Vitality Grant, Downtown Investment Grant, and the Financial Feasibility Grant. So I'm going to start with the Community Vitality Grant. And just to let you know, the Community Vitality Grant and the Downtown Investment Grant, very similar, but they do have different questions and different criteria and so forth. So I'm going to go over them both. So the Community Vitality Grant is available to the Exploring and Mobilizing Main Street communities, and it's designed to assist communities and organizations in achieving their downtown revitalization goals. So this can be anything from nonprofit organizational development, such as strategic planning, maybe a market study to kick off understanding the kinds of businesses that you can support. Downtown website development, so that promotional piece for getting out word to your market about what is offered in downtown. It could be design projects, any of those physical environments, any projects to beautify the downtown, pocket parks, some streetscaping. Entrepreneur support programs, so it might start a revolving loan fund, help seed that. Wayfinding system development, so figuring out what that design might look like. And then the economic vitality project, so that's going to be really anything that's going to support your local businesses. And it can also support other consulting services. Here are a few examples. So Columbia Pike, that's a program in Northern Virginia, and they are in an area that's a bit more of a suburban-like development, and it wasn't all that clear where their district started and where it ended, and so they developed a banner program to make it quite clear. So they used their branding to develop these banners, and then $7,000 to partially fund that. Cape Charles did the branding, so we helped to help them to fund the branding of their district and their Main Street program organization. So that would be their logos, but then also understanding their market and how to apply their branding both on their websites and print materials. Crozet, downtown Crozet, used their grant for strategic planning. So they are a fledgling Main Street program just getting started, and they needed to figure out a path. So they used the grant to pay for consultant services to figure that out. Glade Spring developed a downtown mural. So this is at a gateway on Porton Building into their downtown. So they wanted to create a welcoming environment. And then Narrows, the town of Narrows, worked with their regional planning district commission to create the communities of the new. And this is a lot like Hometowns on the Clinch. So it is a tourism program to help establish that baseline of expectations so that your community could work its assets to the best of its ability and participate in a regional marketing program for the communities along the New River. That's for the communities of the new. So for competitive applications, you want to develop a competitive application. You want it to do really good and rise to the top so it will be funded. And here are a few important points to take into consideration. One, you want to clearly explain how the proposed project or service is an effective organizational or economic vitality strategy for the district. So you want to be very clear about that project and why you are doing it. You want to include the proposed design project, so support existing how they support existing identified strategies for improving the district. So you want to connect this project to whatever your economic development strategies are. And, you know, you get some extra points when some of these projects enhance or complement other DHCD programs. So if this is something that helps to leverage a CDBG downtown a business district revitalization grant, then this might help with some of those expenses that are beyond the scope of that particular funding. So that might help you get some extra points. And then just keep in mind that grant funds cannot be used for ongoing operations. So you'll see that those priorities are reflected here in the scoring. So we want to see it's 30% out of 100% score. 30% is relation to the organizational development or revitalization effort. So you're being very clear about how this project is going to support those goals. That you're clear about the impact on the commercial district. How is this project going to strengthen your economic development strategy or advance the economic health of the district? And then we want to see that your organization is ready to take this on. So do you have that capacity and readiness? And then, of course, do you have a realistic work plan that works within the timeline of funding? Some of the questions connect directly to that, of course. You want to provide that description of the project. You want to describe how the proposed project or service furthers the community vision. You want to describe the intended impact to the project on the commercial district. And what are the projected outcomes of the proposed project or service? So right in line with the Main Street methodology. What are those outcomes that you can expect? Some of the supporting documentation would include your community or your organization's vision statement, same with the mission statement. We want to see a connection to the local or regional economic development strategies. So you might upload pages or cite specific information from one of those plans. We want to see that you have a list of board members and the committee members, a project work plan and budget, many resumes for the individuals that are going to be on that project management team, and then a map and pictures of the project area. Where's it happening? That's especially important for some of your design projects. We need to see the images. What are you planning on doing for that kind of improvement in downtown? So the Community Vitality Grant, that application is due on March 16th by the end of the day, close of business at 5 o'clock. And grants are available up to $7,000. And that's a 2-to-1 match requirement. And that includes in-kind and volunteer hours. So what we're looking at here is for every $2 of grant funding applied for, there must be $1 in matching funding committed. So projects must be underway by January 1st. Because you do have a timeline, it has to be completed by May 1st of 2022. And there will be quarterly reporting through CAMS. So downtown investment grants, much like the CVG grant, except just a little bigger sum of money and a little different expectations. So this allows local Main Street programs to take on, and these are designated communities only, just keep that in mind, to take on unique one-time projects that measurably and creatively and sustainably advance the program's goals and strategies. It can involve multiple downtown partners, and we like to see those partnerships. It requires active leadership participation. And these funds can be used to complete project, or provide seed funds for new projects, or provide gap financing that allows the projects to become fully funded. And again, just like with the CVG grant, it can't be used for operational expenses, which can include payroll, debts, and insurance. So eligibility, you have to be an advancing Virginia Main Street community. It needs to be administered through the local Virginia Main Street organization or the municipality, so your local government can apply. Applications must be current on all Virginia Main Street quarterly reports. So that's a carrot. Keep up with your reporting, designated communities. And priorities are given into nationally accredited communities. You may get it, absolutely. Sorry, my son jumped in here to get some paper. Some downtown investment grant examples. So Stanton funded their Stanton Nights program, and this was a collaborative experiential retail grant program. So Stanton Downtown Development Association funded small mini grants to their local businesses in order to do in-store promotions that are experiential. They also partnered those with some of the local nonprofit organizations to really lift up the community. Winchester updated their wayfinding signage. Of course, they completely redid their traffic patterns in downtown, which meant they had to get those wayfinding signage up to date to correlate with that. So that they were funded $10,000 to partially fund that update. South Boston funded their Keep Entrepreneurs program. So this is a program to support local businesses. They went through a community business launch program, and they had a number of businesses that they wanted to continue to support. And so they were able to create a schedule of local meetings and some incentives and education to keep these businesses thriving. And then Fredericksburg, Virginia Main Street created a zero interest revolving loan program. They realized they really didn't have any incentives for their small businesses and their property owners within downtown. So they created that revolving loan program. And one authentic thing about this that you don't see very often is that it wasn't about doing a build out or rehab or facade improvements. They could actually use this grant for omni-channeling of a local business. So if a local business didn't have a web presence or wasn't doing any online sales, this grant could be, or this revolving loan fund could be used to fund that expansion. Pardon me a second. So for a competitive application, very similar to the CVG grant, we want to see measurable economic improvement. So you have to clearly explain the why and what's going to happen through this project. You want to support the community's vision and align with the mission of the Main Street organization. What are your priorities right now? And does it stay within those parameters? And you want to address one or more of the transformation or those focus strategies for the district. Projects or services that enhance or complement other DHCD programs still stands. So if there have been a community business launch grant within downtown, much like what South Boston did, that this grant would help to ensure the sustainability of those local businesses, well then that's an even stronger downtown investment grant application and project. And again, grant funds cannot be used for ongoing operations. So the scoring aligns right along with that. So relation to organizational mission and vision is 10% of 100% scale. It needs to be relate to the organizational strategies and goals. We want to see clear impact and outcome. That's 30%. So two of the stronger scoring pieces, heavily weighted. And then organizational capacity and readiness, that the organization or the locality can take this on, that they have the capacity and a history of completing grants successfully in the past. And then, of course, a realistic work plan for the project. Some of the questions, they obviously align with that. So number one, provide a detailed description of the project. Two, how and when will the project be accomplished? Three, who will be working on the project? So we want to see that project management team and understand a little bit about their capacity and so forth. Four, how the project furthers community vision, aligns with the mission, aligns with that transformation strategy. Explain why this is an effective strategy to help advance those that overarching strategy. And then describe outcomes that are expected, both quantitative and qualitative. There are some required supporting documentation. We want to see that vision and mission statement. We want to see that list of board and committee members, so you'll supply that to us. Strategic plan, if you have one, and you should have one, of course that makes for a strong application. We want to see how this project relates, so please supply that work plan or strategic plan. The project work plan specifically for the project, that includes tasks, the responsible individuals, the timeline, and cost. So how's this thing going to roll out? And is it going to be done before the deadline in May of 2022? So you need to include those budget, cost estimates, and matching documentation. And here's a few documents, and it really is based on the project type that you have. So if it's a design project, we want to see the design. So you would include a map of downtown with the location of the project, along with current photos and project renderings. So we have a sense of how this this design project is going to impact the district. We have a visual connection. Program designs, draft documents, and proposed facade programs, loan pools. So if you're going to apply to seed a revolving loan fund or a grant program, you need to have those programs already designed. So do you already have your eligibility documentation or application already created? You'll want to include those as well, because we really want to see that this is shovel ready and that you have all of your pieces in place so that you can execute this project successfully and as quickly as possible. And then, of course, it's optional. Plans or studies, any recent economic development plans or studies that include the downtown area that relate to the project. Of course, that makes for a strong project if you're choosing to support something that's already planned and there is a connection to those overarching strategies. So the Downtown Investment Grant, that also is due on March 16th by the end of the business day. And grants are available for up to $25,000. Again, that's a 2-to-1 match for all projects, which for every $2 of grant funding applied for, there must be $1 in matching funding committed. Projects must be underway by January 1st of 2021, and that's because the project should be completed by May of, oops, I have a typo there. That's January 1st of 2022. And projects must be complete by May 1st of 2022. Quarterly reporting is done through CAMS. We'll have that set up for you, and you'll get reminders about that. So that's it for the Downtown Investment Grant. And I'm going to briefly go over this financial feasibility study. So as I said earlier, this grant program funds the study of the highest and best use for an underutilized commercial building within your district. And so what this is going to do is develop sufficient enough information for the owner to develop the property, or the Main Street organization to shop the rehabilitation to other private developers and investors. So this funds a lot of that preliminary or pre-development work, so that it makes it a lot easier for a developer to make a decision about purchasing a property, or it makes it a lot easier for the Main Street organization to market that particular property out to developers. And that usually includes things like your preliminary design reports and renderings, building code and zone assessments, a pro forma for the development and those construction estimates, as needed environmental reports if there needs any remediation is needed, the market demand studies, so really understanding what are the needs of the community, what are the best uses for that property, and then of course gap financing research that connects to that pro forma. How are you going to fund this? So are there historic tax credits that might be involved, or low income, or any other incentives that may match this to make the numbers work for the rehabilitation? So for that particular project, applications are rolling through October 1st of 2022 for 2022 for advancing Virginia Main Street communities. First come, first served, and non-competitive. So just keep in mind we have a limited number of funds for this particular project. Usually we're funding about 3 projects. So through October 1st to October 1st, exploring and mobilizing Main Street communities will be considered for that. So I apologize for the for that oversight at the beginning. So October 1st of 2021, the application is rolling. Grants are available for up to $25,000. There's no match required. Studies must be completed by May 1st of the next year, and quarterly reporting through CAMS. So our tier grants, we're exploring Main Street. This is just to repeat, the Community Vitality Grant is a grant for up to $7,000, and that is available to both Exploring Main Street, Mobilizing Main Street communities. And then the Downtown Investment Grant is available to our designated communities. And the Financial Feasibility Study is up to $25,000. It's available after August 1st of 21 for our Mobilizing and Exploring Main Street communities, and it's rolling up until October 1st for our designated communities. And just to let you know that these grant awards will be announced by the governor after July 1st of 2021. So completing an application in CAM. So you will need to create a profile if you haven't already. The locality organization must submit that application. And you need to assign staff to roles for assistance as needed. And don't share passwords for that. That's something that you want to keep secure. Internet Explorer or Chrome are the recommended browsers for this. Chrome typically works best. And when you're filling out that application, just remember to save often. Use the Save This tab before moving on to another section. It does not save as you go. So make sure that you save often so you don't lose all that important work. You can complete your application and all those questions from the guide and on a Word document. But when you cut and paste it, make sure that you're pasting it without any styles or spacing and so forth, just basic text. Otherwise, it does create some problems in the application where we've got a lot of additional space and so forth. So just make sure that you're pasting with no styles, no particular space settings and so forth. It's just a basic text going in to that application field. And it is important to meet the DHCP audit policies. So all grantees that receive funding during a program year are required to submit financial statements to DHCP through CAMS. And here's a link to that policy. You all will get this presentation. These hyperlinks will be functional so you can get to it. But you can also Google it and you should be able to find it easily. But there are threshold requirements depending on your operating budget of your organization or municipality. So at this point, I'm going to open it up for questions. So please use the chat field for that. To ask any questions. If you're participating by phone, just look for a nice quiet spot and speak up, and Joy will help me to moderate some of those. And I fully admit that this is 2020. I have no idea what next year is. It's been a big blur. I definitely stumbled through some of those dates, and I apologize. They're clearly written in the application and in this presentation. So no, you'll be good. And we can answer any questions.
Yeah, we're dreaming of 2022. That's
right. Yeah, let's get moving.
We're just hitting the fast forward button, aren't we? This probably goes without saying while you guys are working on getting some questions in the chat. I just wanted to say, if you are thinking about a project, please reach out to myself, Kyle. He's going to throw up some contact information for Zachary Whitlow and Courtney Maley as well. Reach out to us and we will walk through the project with you, get more details on it, give you a little bit more guidance directly, because we do think that that's very important for project development and for us to get a bigger and better understanding of your project. So please, we encourage you to do that. We're available to chat with a group if that's what it is. So just wanted to put that out there, that we love hearing from you before you submit an application, just so we can help you craft the best possible application. So Kyle, we have a question, Colonial Beach. Robin Schick, I hope I said that correctly. Are you going to send out the presentation to everyone?
Absolutely. We'll be posting that on the website so that you all can see it, and I can easily send that to all that registered for this. I will follow up with that right after, so you guys will get that. But it will be posted along with the grant manuals on the Virginia Main Street program page of DHCD's website. So look out for that soon. And then Janet, I believe, raised her hand. Janet, did you just want to ask a question? You may unmute and go ahead and ask.
Janet, put it in the chat. Does the feasibility grant only provide funds to identify problems, or are there funds to remediate?
Yeah, that grant is just for the study of the highest and best use. It's just funding the study. But when it comes time for implementation and making the rehabilitation happen, there are other funds. So for the remediation, the Department of Environmental Quality does have a grant available for that. And just to let you know, Janet, that Gloucester received a financial feasibility study grant for a historic bank in their downtown. And so they used the financial feasibility study to figure out the highest and best use and the pro forma and figure out what the environmental challenges would be. And then they used information to inform an application with DEQ to take care of the asbestos and that remediation. So
Yeah,
this is part of a continuum and can lead into the Industrial Revitalization Fund application as well.
I was going to mention that, Kyle, that Department of Environmental Quality does have some of those assessment funds, grant funds that are also $25,000 to $50,000, and you can use our feasibility study to match that and really leverage and go further with. They actually will do a phase 1, possibly a phase 2. They don't do remediation with that funding. You do have to apply for remediation through DEQ with them, but having a study done by them puts you in a good position to get remediation funding from them. So there are funds out there to identify some of those environmental issues with buildings as well. Any other questions?
They're pretty straightforward. You have our contact information, and we're happy to talk to you about this. We've got plenty of time with the deadline for all of these grants being well down the road in 21. So I'm happy to talk to any of my communities about it, but really I'm available to anybody. But just know that I work with the eastern region of the Virginia Main Street program, so everything east of the 95 corridor for the most part. Courtney Maley works with the western region, which is going to be Southwest Virginia, all the way up the Shenandoah Valley. And Zachary Whitlow works with the southern region. So that's sort of Central Virginia all the way down to the North Carolina border. And Catherine Miller is a relatively new employee with us who's working with the RCDI, the Rural Community Development Initiative, and she can assist also with some of our affiliates or exploring Main Street levels. So just know that all of these folks can help you out and answer these questions and help you really zero in on the best project for your community at this point. Happy to take a few more questions. If you're curious about some of the previously funded projects, know that we have our 2018 and 2019 Virginia Main Street annual reports, and they list some of those successful projects that have happened over the last few years. So if you're looking for more examples beyond what I've cited in the presentation, definitely take a look at the annual reports for a few more good examples. Well, if that is it, thank you all for joining us today, and reach out if you have any questions. We're happy to help, and have a happy holidays moving forward. Thank you so much. Or wait, we get to Tony, you got in just under the wire.
Would this grant be available to do remediation on a building that used to be a print shop? Currently, there are inks and chemicals in the building. DEQ has requested that proper disposal be done. No, this grant fund, well, it's not really set up to do remediation, and it's not the dollar amount that would probably be impactful to do remediation. Although I do think DEQ does have some funding available to do those types of remediation, their grant funding, but I'm not sure the availability of that right now. But we can put you in contact with some folks, Tony. If you reach out to me via email, I can put you in direct contact with some folks at DEQ that can help point you in the right direction, either from state or federal funding for remediation.
All right. Well, thank you, everyone. Enjoy your holidays.